Nux.moschata in Clarke. Nux.moschata, Myristica fragrans, Myristica officinalis. Nutmeg, tincture of powdered seeds deprived of the mace. This is the official direction, but it would be well to make a tincture of the nut with a mace, as some symptoms of mace are included. Also, a fresh nut and fresh plant tincture should be prepared and tested. Characteristics. Nux.moschata is one of the many examples of powerfully poisonous and medicinal substances used as common articles of food. మామూలుగా మనం జాజికాయ తాంబూలంలోనూ వాటిలోనూ వేసే జాజికాయ. The nutmeg has a popular repute for putting off the menstrual period or else for bringing it on as a remedy for diarrhea and also for boils. It is the use of ground nutmeg for the purpose that has led to many cases of poisoning and has supplied a large number of symptoms of this schema. Nux.moschata is one of the most profoundly active of psychical remedies in the materia medica, producing states of exhalation resembling hysteria and the mesmeric state with exalted senses and consciousness of double personality. A case reported by Stoneham brings this out. A dark-haired young man ate 2 nutmegs one morning. In the afternoon was exhilarated, able to do more than usual, to argue on any subject. At dinner, mouth dry, great thirst, felt he could not drink enough to quench it. After dinner, had felt strange, as if in a dream, but he joined a small musical party as he had intended. He seemed to be 2 persons, and his real conscious self seemed to be watching his other self playing. అసలైనటువంటి వాడు ఈ పిచ్చి చేష్టలు చేసేవాడిని అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తున్నట్టుగా వాడికి ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాడు. He could not play well and had to desist. He seemed lost, and when spoken to would come to himself with a start, hearing for distant sounds much more acute than usual. A woman who ate several nutmegs with the idea of bringing on abortion has the hallucination that she had 2 heads. ఎవడో చెప్తున్నా అబార్షన్ కోసం తినేసింది. A.P. Williamson records in October 1882 one case of a woman who took grated nutmeg for diarrhea. After second dose of half nutmeg, head felt queer and dizzy. Then head felt large, could not reply to questions, though eyes were open and seemed to understand. Pupils dilated, eyes staring, face pale, respiration labored, semi-conscious and had to be shouted at and relapsed into semi-consciousness. Pulse at first small or rapid, but during unconscious period irregular, fuller and weak. When consciousness first returned, kept hands to her head to prevent it falling off. Was obliged to move her head with her hands, it being too large and heavy for her body. Her chest felt as if in a vice. For some days was unable to use words properly. Frequently obliged to stop in middle of a sentence and change it entirely from not being able to use appropriate words. Exaltation of the senses and sensibilities runs through the remedy. One hypersensitive patient to whom I gave a single dose of Nux.moschata 30 said it seemed to put a coat of cotton wool over her. The senses of sight and touch are exalted In the same way of hearing, the mental disturbance may take all the protean forms of hysteria and even mania. Vanishing of thought. One man had complete loss of memory of his past life and did not recover it for a week. The sensorium is disturbed as much as the mind, and a state of staggering, helpless drunkenness is induced. Connected with this are the sleep symptoms of Nux.moschata, which give the leading keynote of the remedy, drowsiness. Nux.moschata is needed for drowsiness. Nux.moschata is needed for drowsiness more frequently than opium itself. When any complaint causes drowsiness or is accompanied by drowsiness, Nux.moschata must be considered. As if in addition there is chilliness and thirstlessness, Nux.moschata must be given. For Nux.moschata is a chilly medicine aggravated by cold and damp, ameliorated by warmth, with one or two exceptions. Chilliness may be considered the second keynote, but quite an important is the third, dryness. The dryness may be only sensation or it may be acute, it may be actual as well. Dryness of the tongue and throat, dryness of the mouth and tongue, usually but not always without thirst. Tongue so dry, it adheres to the roof of the mouth. Neurotic patients who always awaken with a very dry mouth and tongue. The saliva seems thick like cotton. I cured with Nux.moschata 30 a very bad case of indigestion with acne in a youth who had this symptom. Eyes dry, too dry to close the lids. The skin is dry, and Nux.moschata is suited to people who readily perspire. Another keynote is a tendency to fainting. This is allied to the drowsiness, sudden loss of memory, and vanishing of ideas. Persons who easily faint away from sight of blood from standing as to have a dress tied on, and those who have faintness are fainting during or associated with evacuations, these are likely to want Nux.moschata. One or more of the above conditions will be present in the majority of cases needing Nux.moschata, but there are few remedies which have more of the striking and peculiar symptoms, the value of which Hahnemann was the first to perceive than this remedy, and when these are present, or the well-marked conditions of aggravation and amelioration, they will be sufficient indications independently of those mentioned. Here are some sensations: as if drunk, limbs as if floating in the air, forehead as if large again, forehead as if pushed out, as if brain struck against side of head, brain as if loose, objects appear much too large, pain as if a rough body in a eustachian tube, pricking as of electric sparks on cheek, as if wind incarcerated in stomach. కడుపులో గాలి పట్టేసింది, ఎక్కడికి కదలటం లేదని చెబుతూ ఉంటారు కొంతమంది. As if a piece of bacon were in the throat, as if food had formed itself into lumps in stomach, as if a piece of wood stretched across the small of the back were pressing from within out, as if heart would be squeezed off, as if something grasped heart, as if heart were beating in a vacuum, as if it were difficult to move tongue, as if blood were rushed to the heart and then all over the body, as if left shoulder contained lead, as if a string were tied round arms, as if a grasping hand in upper arm, pains as if bruised, sprained, wrenched, as if bones smashed, as if electrified, pressure, throbbing, drawing, burning are all common sensations. The sensitiveness of Nux.moschata comes out in the soreness of parts lain on. The use of nutmeg as a condiment has doubtless its origin in the fact that Nux.moschata is specifically related to weak digestion. It is indicated in conditions of excessive flatulence and when the smallest excess in eating or drinking sets up the indigestion. The domestic use in menstrual irregularities has also a specific foundation. Irregularity is the chief note of the remedy here. Much bearing down pain, blood dark, uterine prolapse and displacements have been remedied by it and threatened abortion warded off. In pregnancy, labor, the puerperal state, convulsions, head jerked back forward. It has a large spear. There is a cough occurring only when warm in bed, or aggravated then. In constipation with drowsiness, Nux.moschata is as often indicated as opium. ఆ రెండు కాన్స్టిపేషన్ డ్రౌజినెస్లోనూ కూడా ఓదాకోటి. Faintness during or after stool is a great indication. Nux.moschata is also hemorrhoidal and hemorrhagic. Protruding piles, hemorrhage of typhus, fetid flatus, incontinence of urine. The hemorrhages of Nux.moschata are dark. All kinds of spasms and convulsions are developed in the provings. Catalepsy, clairvoyant state, answers questions accurately, quite out of her sphere, and on returning to consciousness knows nothing about it. పూనకాల్లాగనమాట. Jactitation of muscles. చూడండి జాక్టిటేషన్ అనేది JAC TITATION జాక్టిటేషన్. JAC TITATION.
Maliciously boasting.
Maliciously boasting or giving out
By one party, but he has to be married to the married. Maliciously boasting him.
Jactitation of muscles. Chorea, jerks in inner parts in muscles, recovers with a start. Paralysis with spasms and trembling of tongue, eyelids, esophagus. Locomotor ataxia excited by cold and wet. Puffiness, swellings, dropsy of outer parts. Buzzing sensation with numbness of hands and feet. These symptoms are aggravated by touch. Pressure ameliorates such symptoms and aggravate others. Lying on parts causes soreness. Riding in carriage causes headache, water brush. Backache. Rest ameliorates headache. Aggravated belly ache, backache, rheumatism. Rising head from pillow causes deathly sickness. Lying down aggravates head. Aggravated on side lying on. Stitches in spleen causes bending double. Motion aggravates. Shaking head aggravates. Walking aggravates. Ameliorates palpitation. Many symptoms appear in the morning. Drowsy by day. Dry mouth aggravated evening and night. Diarrhea aggravated night. Heat amelioration. Hot summer aggravates. Summer complaint of children. Hot weather causes losing flesh in brain. Heat of bed aggravates or causes cough. Warmth of room causes hands to feel as if frozen. Warmth ameliorates other symptoms. Open air aggravates. Walking against wind causes hoarseness. Aggravated by damp wet weather. Cold weather. Getting wet before a shower. Washing. A bath causes check of menstrual flow. Aggravation after eating and drinking. After cold drink. Drinking causes dry cough, colic. Drinking beer causes strangury. Brandy causes electrifying effect. Milk causes diarrhea. Alcohol aggravates. Eating a little too much causes headache. Nux.moschata is suited to children, women, pregnant women, persons with cool, dry skin, who do not easily perspire, weakness of old age, dyspepsia of old people, constitutions with stiff, straight hair rather than crisp and curly, delicate constitutions, hydrogenoid constitution. P.P. Wells says that in brain affections of infantile life, in the stupor, insensibility, and unquerable desire to sleep, whether in idiopathic affections of the brain or in those occurring during cholera infantum, Nux.moschata is one of the most precious remedies in the Materia Medica. J.C. White gives a striking instance of Nux.moschata headache ameliorated by hard pressure in a man convalescing from a severe gunshot wound of the head. He wanted the nurse to bear her whole weight on her. With the headache was rapid, anxious breathing, as if he could not get air enough and the wind would be shut off. Nux.moschata always relieved it. The 3x was first given. The 3x was first given, then a higher potency. Causation: fright, mental exertion, suppressed eruption, bath suppressed menses, overeating, milk, bad beer, alcohol. Mind: weeping mood with burning in the eyes and lacrimation. Fickleness with desire, sometimes for one thing, as others for something else. Great inclination to laugh, to make a jest of everything, especially in the open air, sometimes with a stupid look, as if imbecile. Incessant flow of facetious ideas. Everything about him seemed ludicrous, humor grave and gay alternately, mentally excited and exhilarated, facility of arguing. After dining, had felt strange, as if in a dream. Seemed to be two persons. His real conscious self seemed to be watching his other self playing piano. Could not play well, struck false notes, and was obliged to give it up. Seemed just seemed lost when spoken to, and and would come to himself with a start. Transient loss of memory, but a perfect consciousness of all that I said or did. Surrounding seems changed, fanciful, dreamy images, does not recognize well-known streets. Weakness of memory, loss of memory, entirely lost memory of his past life, hallucination that she had two heads, sense of impending dissolution, besought me piteously not to let her die, slowness of apprehension, dizziness, difficult conception, want of ideas as from absence of mind, vanishing of thoughts in reading, disposition to go to sleep, dullness of senses, thoughtlessness with slowly returning consciousness, dementia and mental alienation, idiocy, mania with odd speeches and ridiculous gestures, delirium with violent vertigo, improper talk, loud tone and voice, and total sleeplessness. The least exertion or mental excitement causes somnolence. Unable to use words promptly, frequently obliged to stop in middle of a sentence and change it entirely from not being able to use appropriate words. So this is for today. And next week, next Sunday, Vasudeva. 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 Vasudeva.